we've been looking in the news lately, and we were going to do a video on REITs, which is coming, but we've seen a lot of AMC in the news, and we want to know why. Why is AMC in the news? What happened, and where are they going? Now, AMC, as you know, has been in the news in the last couple years with the whole GameStop crowd and WallStreet Bets propping it up, and it's been short squeezed over the last 2021, 2022, and that's why we are in on it, because they're making the news again.
We're doing a monthly stock purchase, so in order for you to do a monthly stock purchase, you kind of have to know what's going on in the market. So AMC happened to come up. When you go to Google Trends and you take a look at what's happening in the market and what people are searching for, they're pretty close to the top of the list. Why? To explain that, we kind of have to get into what happened with the GameStop crowd and all of the things surrounding why that stock went way up unexpectedly and went down, because almost the same thing happened to AMC.
AMC was in trouble, and the WallStreet Bets crowd at Reddit loves a troubled stock. So going into it, they were kind of on the edge of bankruptcy, and they're trying to figure out a way to not go bankrupt. And this was kind of separate from the WallStreet Bets crowd. They started selling special shares. Instead of going the traditional route, they're going more of the retail investor route. And WallStreet Bets got a hold of this, and they just started propping it up just like they did GameStop. Turned into a meme stock, which actually helped them. It allowed them to weather the 2020 shutdowns, and they got through it. But it didn't necessarily help them that much, because they're still in trouble. And that's why they're in the news, because they're talking about a 10-to-1 reverse stock split and doing a conversion for shares. We'll get into that in a minute. What was interesting was what they did with some of the money is they purchased part of a mining company in Nevada.
We're not making any money in movies, so we're gonna buy a mining company. It's funny.
And that was called Highcroft Mining Company. They bought 22 shares, which is amazing because they said that they wanted to pay it forward. So they took some of the profits and paid it forward to a mining company that was also struggling, who's doing better now. But I think they should have used that to pay off their debts.
I'm sitting here smiling while Brian's talking, just thinking in the back of my head, this company, if you were to invest in a business, this is like watching a fat lady get up on stage at the end of a show and she's getting ready to sing, and then they hook her right as she goes, huh, and it just pulls her right off stage. Because this company, financially, they're losing a lot of money. I mean, $200 million a quarter on average, every quarter consistent. That's not good.
No.
So they've been diluting their shares. They've been issuing more stock. They've got another special board meeting coming up on March 14th to issue more stock. So they've got these things that they're doing to try to kick the can down the road. And it's surprising to me that the GameStop crowd and these people that dumped into it, they kind of, not only did they kick the can down the road far enough, but they gave the company a breath of life almost. Like they might survive for at least a little while.
They were able to raise almost $2 billion from the WallStreet Bets.
Just from that.
Yeah.
So they bought a mining company. If you look at their cash flow numbers, I'm a numbers guy. Everybody that hears me talk on all the time about numbers. So Brian started talking about AMC stock. I started looking at their finances going, oh my gosh, these are not good numbers. And it doesn't take long. If you go to the balance sheet, you can see their assets, their liabilities, you can see their cash flow statement, you can see what's happening to that. Like I said, $200 million a quarter being lost. You can look at their operating revenue and their cost of the revenue, and you can see that sure enough, it's not looking that good.
Right.
Why would the GameStop crowd, why would they come in and prop this company up? Are they trying to burn down the capitalist system or say, hey, screw you guys? Or maybe do they believe in an American institution of, hey, date night, let's go to the movies? I don't know. Do you have, why would you do that if you're gonna, because the company's bleeding money. You look at the financials, they're not doing well.
No, and I think that's why the WallStreet Bets Reddit crowd chose this as one of their meme stocks. They like to get a stock that's been beaten down hard. They get behind it and help it along. I think they do it just for fun and, to help a company that's bad. Are they doing the company any favors? I don't know. I think they're prolonging the inevitable. GameStop's still around and AMC's still around, so it's obviously helps. Neither one has gone bankrupt yet,
Yeah, there's some negative trends though. I mean, theater attendance is dropping. Look at the past 20 years. COVID's kind of an outlier there, but they've dropped 28% in the last 20 years. So that's not good. Plus technology improvements. I mean, you can buy a giant spy device, I mean TV, for your house, and there's really nice ones like 75-inch screens for $1,000. It's kind of ridiculous, but there's a lot of improvements with technology. So these guys, if you're going to buy AMC stock, they really have to reinvent themselves. The Reddit crowd and all these guys gave them a breath of life. It's a temporary breath of life. They have to do something with this money now. And not only that, keep in mind, they have to not only do something with that money to pay back the money that they got, but they have to make their business profitable. Before this happened, this company was not profitable.
Right.
So let's look at this Reddit crowd again. So they come in, they say, we're going to prop up this AMC company, and they're losing money hand over fist. The problem with that is if anybody's thinking, well, hey, we should jump in now. No. You're too late. Late to the party.
Yeah, you had to do that in the beginning because when they started, they had lots of calls, options calls, and got into it. And one thing that the Reddit people love is a stock that's highly shorted because they like sticking it to the industrial investors.
This is one of them.
So basically what happens is they get in, they do the option calls, they put money into it, the stock goes up. Now these people who are shorting it have to cover their short basis.
Yep.
So they have to start putting money into it as well, which makes the stock go even higher. And that's where the profit comes into the people who get in early and are able to do that. The problem is the people who get in a little bit late, who sees, oh my God, okay, AMC is the one, let's get in there. They're getting in at the higher point.
And they become liquid cash
a month
for
later,
those guys.
Yeah, that $70 stock goes back down to 12, and those people who bought it at 60 or 70 lost their shirts because they went in and YOLO'd.
That's not investing, by the way. That's kind of like playing the casino. You're playing the cards and you got somebody back there helping you cheat.
Yeah.
I wouldn't consider that a safe way to invest. So we're not...
Never underestimate the power of a Wall Street Bets ape.
Yeah, we're not like, as far as buying AMC stock, we're not looking at that yet. The things that the stock has to do, like I said, there's some negative trends. They have to reinvent the theater experience. For a long time, you would go to the theater, you get shoved in there like a can of sardines, and there'd be some guy behind you making loud noises or put his feet up behind you, and it felt like an airline ticket. I mean, you go onto the airlines, you're squeezed into the plane, and it's not really a quality experience. So the AMC is gonna have to take this money, they're gonna have to do some things with it. And they've talked about this, so that's a good sign. They got to make the seating more comfortable. I guess they're bringing in food venues so you can have a meal while you eat there. They're trying to make the experience more enjoyable for date night or for the experience itself, because like I said, they have to bring people back.
Reclining seats,
Yep.
which are very nice, by the way. If you have never gone to a theater with reclining seats.
I'm a little skewed. I have my own little theater set up, so I haven't been to the theater in a long time. So I don't know.
Yeah, you're 0.01% of the audience, man.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's not bad for them. I don't know. But they've got like moving seats they're talking about. They're going to talk about serving alcohol. Yeah. They've got a streaming service that they're trying to do.
Well, they have to have the streaming service to compete with Netflix, Amazon, HBO Max, all those other streaming services that are killing the theater experience.
So what are we getting at, really? If AMC as a stock has to do a few things in order for it to be a good investment. So when you buy a stock, remember, you're buying a piece of that company. So they need to have a product that has sales that overcomes the cost of operations, so much so that your initial investment can also be paid off in addition to them just running their business. And AMC's not there yet. So would we buy it? I personally would not buy it. But if they survive this, they take the $2 billion, they put it to a good use long term, and they do things like the bigger seats and all the things we're talking about here, they could be a good buy if they can turn that ship around.
So I know the question that you're asking is, if they do all this, should you buy it ahead of the March 14th special shareholders meeting where they're going to discuss voting whether or not to do a reverse 1-to-10 split and to
that scares me.
convert their 8 special preferred shares to common. And that's going to involve both the common and the preferred stockholders. If they do that, then what's going to happen?
AMC, when a company does a reverse stock split, typically that means the business is not doing well financially. If the company's not doing well financially and you're trying to invest for the long term and you don't want to gamble your money and you need to see those numbers, that's not going to change their profit. What that does is it leverages them harder. So they have more liabilities to pay off later on. So they might be okay, they might go through that, but remember, they have to turn a profit and they weren't profitable before they did this. Now, COVID had a big part to play in that.
Right. Shut down and nobody going to your business, you're gonna lose money.
I like AMC I like what they do. I like the theaters, I like going there, I like all that. But for an investment reason, they have to show demonstrable revenue that we can sink our teeth into and say, hey, this is how they're gonna pay us back for our investment. And they can't do that yet.
So I think what they're doing now is just biding time. They're trying to extend their bankruptcy default loan time so that they can implement some of these things to not just rely on people coming to the theater to watch movies, but to do other things, conferences, esports, streaming, stuff like that. So they have a reverse stock split. They have about 550 million outstanding shares. So if they do the 1 to 10, that brings it down to about 58 million shares, which is going to take their stock, which is a little over $6, to around $60 a share. So that gets them out of penny stock delisting area, and to cover all the people who are going to now sell because now it's $60.
Yep.
They have the stock conversion of the ape to common stock. So that will issue about another 110 million shares, I believe, to cover that part and to hold the price up a little bit. There's a company who is investing in them that this is a requirement for them to invest, to take the special shares that they gave, I think in December of 21 or something like that, that went down to $2.
The stock split, what does that do? If you're looking at them reversing the stock split and that gives them funding, go back to their cash flow statements. If you look at their cash flow statements, you'll see that they had about $700 million, something like that, left over. Now, we could not get Q4 yet. We looked. We got January's 8K form, but unfortunately, the only thing that shows is that they're issuing more stock. So as soon as we can get the Q4 form, we'll show that. But if they get the split and people buy the stocks and all of that goes the way they would anticipate, that's going to bring their cash flow somewhere just under about $2 billion. So if you're looking at negative revenue of $200 million every quarter, they've got $2 billion in cash. They've got about 8 quarters or so. They got about 2.5, maybe 3 years before they're really in trouble again. So they're kicking the can down the road. Logically, it makes sense. If you look at theater attendance, they're going from pre-COVID to COVID till now. The numbers are coming back to where they were pre-COVID. Now, granted, we did say earlier in the video that theater attendance is on the decline overall. But if you look at their numbers pre-COVID and you look at what their attendance was, they were still really tight. They were still very tight. So right now, $900 million of net revenue, operating cost of about $1.1 billion. If you increase, let's say the pre-COVID numbers, I think, are about 70 to 80% of what they are now. If you increase that 20-30%, we assume it's 30%, $900 million. You add in another $270 million to that. Your expenses are $1.1 billion. You're still really tight. And that's on an average. So they not only have to reinvent themselves, they're gonna have to do some cost consolidation. So this gave them runway, but if I'm gonna invest in it, there's a lot of other options out there that are profitable companies. We have a portfolio that invests in companies that have products that people have to have. Our portfolio has done very well. In fact, we beat the S&P close to 30% last year. So there's a lot of choices out there. Would AMC be the stock that you can get in at the bottom? It'll go from 6 to 60? Probably not. The reverse stock split, because you have less shares, doesn't mean that your money goes 10 times.
You're not going to make any money. You're going to be able to buy more shares at $6, but when you lose those with the 1 to 10. So if you have 100 shares, now you got 10 shares.
And you still have $100. So if you had $100 before, you're gonna have $100 afterwards. So it's not
apples to apples, even Steven, and then it's probably gonna go down from 60 from there. So you're gonna end up losing money. I think the people who are really excited about this are the people who are doing covered calls or shorting the stock. They're the ones who are really excited about this. I don't recommend it because it's very risky.
Yes.
Way more risk than we want to hold ourselves.
If you want to see how our portfolio does for an alternative to AMC, take a look at our other videos that talk about what we buy per month every month, and that'll give you an idea of what we do instead. We'll be watching AMC stock to see what happens with this one, but in order for us to want to invest it, we really need to see their net revenue get a little bit higher. We need to see them do something with this, and hopefully the theater attendance does come back. I would love to be able to go back to the theaters and see a better experience, and hopefully they survive through that. But if they don't, you're not going to lose your money at the very least, because you're going to have other companies that make good money. So as far as AMC stock goes, our personal portfolio, we're probably going to say no. Maybe in a few quarters, if the attendance comes back, maybe we'll say yes at that point. But right now, don't gamble your money. Be careful with your investments and make sure you're buying companies that would give you a good return on your investment. Yep. We don't see a good return for these guys until they can deleverage. Now, that's not a 1 year thing. That's a couple years out. They have to take the stocks they got to improve their business. They got to get their operating revenue back. Their cash flow position has to improve long term. And then they got to pay off their liabilities. So 5 to 6 years if they get through this. Reddit, you kick the can down the road.
Maybe you could do it again.
Maybe you can do it again, but the numbers don't look any better this time. So hopefully the attendance comes back. Maybe everything looks good long term, but right now I would, again, say probably not.
And if you find value in the information that we just gave, then go ahead and hit that like button. It helps us out tremendously with the algorithm.
Yes.
Go ahead and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content.
Yeah, next time we'll cover REITs. We've got a couple suggestions on those, and then after that we have our month 11 stock pick. We'll post our portfolio and everything and how we're doing in that. So stay tuned, and thank you for watching.
As always, happy investing.